What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in, Channel 99. We've got KDG in the Half Max, and with her is Danny. He's the pianist.
Yes.
And we totally geeked on everything from religion to music, instruments, and
Pipe
everything
organs.
in between. Yeah, the pipe organs. Yeah.
Star Trek.
We learned that they've got a bunch of kids down there pushing air into these pipe organs. Star Trek. Yeah. So we had a blast. Make sure that you stay tuned for the entire episode. They got a shout out. You can find the music at KDG Music. It's a / on Facebook, right? So it's Facebook / KDG Music. And you can find her and all the things that she has to offer, upcoming events and whatnot. We had a blast, and I appreciate these guys coming into the studio, spending their time, and make sure you subscribe, give us 5 stars, pass the episode along, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace out.
Shut up and sit down.
We had to leave her in the hospital. She was born at the hospital. You had to take her to the hospital and leave her in ICU, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden I was praying. You know, I was like praying to God to make my baby all right. And I was an atheist and I was praying, you know.
Yeah.
And then, I said, I'll do all this stuff. And I was, there it was.
Yeah.
But then I saw her and she was all right. So I didn't have to, she got well on her own.
Oh, it wasn't the prayer that did it? How do you know?
Yeah. How do you know? Yeah. Yeah, I think everybody finds themselves praying regardless of whether or not they believe in God or some type of higher power. I don't know. I find myself praying all the time, just whatever it is. If there's anything out there, save me. If you're like a multi-dimensional creature,
Well, for me,
get
it's
my
like
back,
it's a
dude.
self-soothing thing, you know, like
it is.
like a baby will suck its thumb or whatever, and like as an adult, you're like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, it's like a mantra. You have to, whether you're praying to something or to yourself, or it's just it's a way to kind of get your brain
Right.
in the right place,
And whatever they're
to get your
praying to-
feelings in line.
And whatever we pray to, we probably got it just as wrong or right as the next person,
Well,
right?
Well,
yeah.
not just every person, but
But it also could be energy. Maybe you're trying to push out good vibes, good energy, and it could just be that is going to be reciprocated. You're thinking, I've done this, please give me something back, like help me. And then next thing you know, it comes back to you. So it could be like it could be God, or it could just be positive energy that is pushed your way. I really don't know.
I work with Alana. She's kind of devout Jewish, and she's an atheist. But she has this way that she believes you have to pray, or that she likes to pray.
Mm-hmm.
But she's a devout atheist. She's not like, well, maybe not. She's like, no, there's nothing. Yeah.
Wow.
But she's really into her religion.
it's her heritage.
It's her heritage, but I mean, it's not just like, hey, I'm Jewish. I mean, I'm Jewish, so you know, so what? But I mean, great, But she's like, no, and so we have to do this and we have to do that.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's almost. I think.
but she's an atheist.
Yeah, I think for the most part, it's like an ethnic and a cultural thing, regardless of whether or not they believe in like God. I think it's just part of like that culture.
But
like,
they take to the kids go to like religious school, so they learn about God and what
structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
there you go.
that's what I think. It's like it's all about structure. I'm not anti-religion. I'm not atheist. I'd probably describe myself more as agnostic. I'm somebody who just believes that like as long as I'm a good dude,
Right.
and I treat people well, and I don't take advantage of people, and I'm not a shitty person, I think God will look at me and be like, all right, man, all right, we gave you a few chances. You kind of screwed up here, and here, but you're a good dude, so you got to pass.
You get a pass.
I got that free cheeseburger. So,
All right.
like you show up and you're just a nice person, you do good, but I could be wrong.
I dig playing in church.
I do too. There's something
really-
about
Oh,
the
the
music
energy.
that, Well, like if
Yeah.
you were just to go to church and just to listen to the sermon and there was no music, like I don't think people will go, honestly.
No.
Like
Yeah.
it's really about the music.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's about the ambiance and like the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And music makes everything better.
We did some
Even
nice stuff
kind
today.
of mediocre
Very
music makes
uplifting.
things better.
What do you think of those songs today?
Those are great songs.
We did traditional hymns just about. We did like It Is Well With My Soul, and that one really
That's a
worked
great
out
one.
good. Yeah.
I love going to Christian churches just for like the free music because you have amazing musicians.
Sometimes
who-
not.
Maybe not. The ones I've
We
been
do.
to.
At this church,
good enough,
no, we
yeah.
got a nice little band. We really do.
I've been to a couple churches. So I co-host, technically I host, but like I produce a show called Testimonies with Tim. And I have like interns from like Life Church and like different churches around here, and they'll come in and they'll do their testimony, and this is this is what I used to do, and this is how I found God, and they talk about their experience and what changed them, and I kind of play a little devil's advocate, but I also allow them like their time to just shine because I think that's important.
You know where the
and
word testimony came from?
I don't.
You know where the word testimony?
No.
Is it a test of faith?
No, it's derived from testicle, because when you would make a swear, then they would grab you by they would hold your balls.
No way.
And
No
if you
way.
were lying, you wouldn't. So a testament was definitely true.
But don't you think people would
No,
say anything?
no, turn your head
like,
and cough. Just straight grab it.
This is true, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is that true?
yeah, it comes from testicle.
How do you know that?
Wow.
Isn't that nice?
This dude knows a lot.
I know.
He walked into my house. He's like, "Yo, where's your piano? Let me look at your art." And I'm like, "Oh, this dude knows what art I have. I should probably step my game up." Surprisingly, everything but one of the things in here is original. So the monkey is not original, but my dog is a scratch. That was gifted to me. I bought that 10 years ago. So if you go to like Road Skate Park, if you go up to Table Rock, all the buildings from Table Rock, if you go to Freak Alley, the big paintings, the people who had that
It's Freak Alley Gallery.
gallery, yep. And so that's Sector 17, that's Elmer and Mock. Those are two of my best friends. They've been on my show a couple times.
I read the article on them.
It
was in Territory magazine, isn't that right?
I think so, yeah.
It's a great article.
And those guys, they have really.
Then I
done
looked at
some
their
cool stuff.
YouTubes because they had an article, so I looked them up on YouTube because they said they had some stuff, and they have like
The time lapse.
time-lapse photographer.
Oh, okay.
Like of them painting this whole mural like under Rhodes Park in like a minute and a half. You
Wow.
know?
Yeah,
It's a good-
It's really cool. Some of my best friends.
That's
so,
great.
Done that, yeah. And then so there's that brain that's popping right now because I set it up so that the only natural light that comes in, it'll ping off of it because of the colors. That was a local artist on LSD, and they painted their own brain on LSD. So I was like, all right, I'll buy it.
I'm actually impressed that someone could take LSD and get anything that intricate done.
I know.
I'm just like so distracted by like I just want to go outside and like
I've never done LSD.
like eat fresh vegetables. I'm just I was eating like I think I took mushrooms once and I was eating these like snow peas. And I was just like, oh my God, these are,
bliss.
I could just feel like how my body like loved me for eating them. It was like, thank you for giving me something
I want
that was good for me.
I want to do mushrooms. I want to do mushrooms again in the right setting as a.
You should come over here and do it.
Yeah,
Danny's
do
actually
a
he lives
podcast.
on a farm
So you can grow them.
out in the country,
Yes.
and he's like invited us over to come do
Eat
psychedelics at his house.
I would totally do that.
I just read this book by Michael Poulon, who's a food writer,
Yeah.
and it's called How to Change Your Mind, and it's a story about
Mushrooms.
the history of mushrooms, the history of the LSD movement, how it's being used in therapy. One thing I didn't know: the guy who founded AA, and gave up drinking, he was an alcoholic. He actually went through it, gave up alcohol as a result of a psychedelic experience.
Wow.
And he wanted to incorporate LSD into AA, but it didn't.
The federal government is like,
take
hey, we
off.
can't make any money on this. Sorry.
But there's a lot of people that think that because mushrooms have followed people around, and mushrooms have evolved with our brains, like symbiotically.
The stoned ape theory.
And the thing that proves it, one of the things that would prove it would be, you would think wild mushrooms that grew like in the woods away from people would be stronger. They're weaker. The strongest mushrooms are the ones that grow around people, and they seem to grow in disturbed ground that people have disturbed. They grow best.
Because it's an aggressive environment at that point.
And tell her the stoned ape theory.
Basically, the stoned ape theory is you got a bunch of monkeys like Neanderthals who, as they continuously ate things, like ate these mushrooms, it expanded your actual brain, right?
And they started
And your
Like your brain capacity, yeah.
and your capacity to understand creativity,
religion.
Religion, everything that had to do with starting with your hands to build things, to make things, and then obviously with your brain to make sure that like you are using the rest of like that brain. So yeah, it's an enlightenment theory, and it basically has to talk about, or it has to do with a bunch of like Neanderthals taking mushrooms and expanding their brains, and that forced
made
us
us
into
human.
an evolutionary evolutionary, I guess you could call us like a subject at this point. But I do believe that that is a cool theory, but I honestly think that we were genetically modified by aliens. So
It's either that or mushroom. Or genetically modified by aliens on mushrooms, maybe. Right?
they're coming down. They're just
Maybe
like,
they planted them for us to find.
now we're,
Because, like, that's a lot of work for them to have to, like, come over here and, like, do experiments on us. They're like, oh, we'll just, leave
Actually,
them
it's
with
just a
parents somewhere.
dimensional thing. They just jumped dimension.
Yeah.
I think they're right here.
yeah.
I guess
Are
I'm
you-
thinking like a three-dimensional person.
Yeah, you got to think 4D right now. It's true. I'm a huge believer. I had a guy on here. He is very successful in certain types of investments, and I've known him shortly, but long enough to geek with him. He showed up and he microdoses on LSD. Mm-hmm. Very successful businessman. He's got like some issues that he's like been working through his whole life, and he does like a microdose. So he came over and we did 2 different shows the same night, just because there were so many topics and it was so long that I had to cut them up. But we talked about whether or not aliens, are they actually from, like, are they extraterrestrial or are they intraterrestrial? Like, when you look at the movie like Black Panther, right? And
Hated
the
that
whole
movie.
mountain, I didn't really get
I thought
into
it was
either.
kind of sexist, to be honest.
Really? I just didn't really get into it. I
What,
just
because
couldn't
all the
get into
girls are always dressed like hot?
Okay,
it. It was-
because
They're all leathered out.
it was like none of the women could ascend to the throne. It had to be a man.
Yeah.
So I thought
It's
that
a
like they
little
tried
sexist.
to be more inclusive of women, but I think they still fell short.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
also just didn't think it was that entertaining.
It wasn't a good movie, I know. I was really disappointed.
I didn't think it was amazing.
No.
But when the mountain opens up and you've got like the normal Earth, right? And then all of a sudden they're coming out with like starships or whatever you call them,
yeah.
like these like UFO basically looking ships. They got all these different powers, whatever. I think, okay, if you look at the planet, any picture taken of planet Earth from outside is just a bunch of pictures put together. We don't know what we don't know. So we really don't know, which is why I don't subscribe to the flat earth theory, but I definitely let them have their fun. And I think those guys should geek out because there are so many different random weird theories. I'm more of a believer in the hollow earth because there's a lot more background that goes into Hitler, goes into like the Third Reich, goes into all these different things that have to do with South America, North America. We're talking like Admiral Byrd going into like this journey to the center of the earth or whatever, like there are a lot of different things that would push me more towards, are these like time travelers from the future who are able to come back and they're just looking at us and kind of fixing and tweaking things as they go along? Or are they maybe Atlantis that descended into the like inner bowels of our actual planet Earth, and there's like an interior where we don't know about it? Because we really don't know anything. Like, let's be real. How many of us in this room have walked 4 miles out into the middle of the wilderness? Nobody. But
Well, Danny probably has.
maybe Bigfoot. We could talk about Bigfoot. You know, if you want to talk about like, yeah, if we want to geek out on stuff like that, like Bigfoot, like like evolution. Is there God involved? You know, the way that I think is God created Eve from the rib of Adam, and that is genetic modification. Like, he literally took stem cells. The only way I can think about it is homeboy took stem cells, and he genetically modified them to be the exact opposite, or to be something that would work well with Adam. And next thing you know, we've got that. But it's like, people are like, oh, yeah, made it from a rib of Adam. We're not even going to think about that. And it's like, well, you should probably think about that, because like, that's science. Like, God comes down on light. Who travels on light? Nobody travels on light. That is like science beyond. Like, there's things that come out now today where it's like, they brought a bunch of like pig brains back after they'd been dead for a long time. Like, those are zombie pigs. Like, there's things that like science fiction
Right.
20 years ago was saying this is science fiction, and now it's literally reality.
Oh yeah, there was a whole like a documentary about Star Trek, and about. Did you see that with William Shatner? And it was like all of these things that were like that were in the original Star Trek series. Like, okay, for instance, the automatically opening doors. That wasn't an actual thing until Star Trek came out, and somebody was like, hey, I'm going to create that. I'm going to make that happen. So they created automatically opening doors. And now they're doing like 3D printers and things like that, because they're inspired by this, you know, science fiction
talk to the computer.
Inspires real life
Yeah.
science. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's real and what isn't real, but I do know like that I exist in some fashion in my head, you know, in this world. And that's, I don't know what comes after it, but this is my life I'm living now.
Yeah.
And if I give positive energy to the world, it will give it back to me.
Like I was saying earlier, like, it's what you give is what you get.
And I will enjoy things like petting a dog or a kitty and music and I think science is interesting. I'm not a real scientific person, but I like to believe that there is, you know, there is some form of spirituality in science.
Yeah, totally. I think we're sensitive to a lot of different things, and when it comes to especially like spiritual things, we can be influenced very well. You know, there's been points in my life where I've broken down and been like, yeah, I believe in God. And then there's other times where I'm like, no, I don't believe in God. And so I think for me, as just a regular person who doesn't subscribe to any religion or any type of a belief, I'm kind of out there like an independent. Like, whatever happens to me, I'll figure it out.
Well, I think I feel like I'm constantly changing who I am and what I believe, because I'm always experiencing more and more. And that changes who I am. And I think actually the church that we go to, the pastor a few months ago gave this sermon, and she said something that really stuck with me. She said, when we're not growing, we're dying.
Yeah.
I like that.
And that really kind of stayed with me.
It's true, though. I've always believed that we were sent here to learn. Like, I was raised LDS, and so, but not like the traditional kind of weirdo LDS family, like
the multiple moms thing.
Yeah. But my parents were always like, always ask questions. If you don't have any idea what somebody's talking about, you ask them questions. Doesn't matter what they're talking about. If it's authority, if it's like church, doesn't matter. You make sure that they clarify what they're talking about. My father's like a retired colonel in the military, so I was raised very structured, but I was also raised like to respect authority to an extent, to make sure that individual is somebody who I should respect. And my parents were always like, ask questions, and I kept asking questions, and that's where I'm at today, where you see you see certain types of teachings and whatnot that are going to be consistent within all religions, but then they all have their own different interpretations. And I think it's those different interpretations where people are like, all right, well, I relate to that, so I'm going to subscribe to that church, or I relate to the way that they, perceive, this topic, so I'm going to go to that church and whatnot. I don't necessarily believe that there's, like the right religion. I just think that there is the right point of view, and that is to make sure that you are just a good person.
Well, I think that I don't think it matters whether or not it's real.
Right.
If it inspires people to go out and do good things in the world, those things that they're doing, those actions are real. So it doesn't matter whether it was a story about, Jesus coming to America and preaching to the Indians, or,
Right. They're just
Buddha
stories.
being reincarnated. It's like, if that inspires you to do something good, then that's positive, and that's real.
That is real.
Yeah.
And that's and I think religion in itself, organizations, but technically religions are they're the forefront. And I think for the most part, religions do inspire people to do good in general. Yeah. For the most part.
Yeah.
Not always. But either way, everybody, we've got KDG and the Halfbacks and Danny, did I say that right? KDG and the Half Max. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, cool. And then we got Danny. And,
Danny's a Half Mac.
He's a Half Mac. Yeah. He's the keyboardist. Yes. What are you? Are the pianist, keyboardist?
I like to call myself a pianist.
The pianist, yeah.
I'd
say the same.
Danny's my right-hand man. Although I think we're like equals. I wouldn't be able to do anything that I do without him.
Yeah. How many people are in the band?
It fluctuates, just based on...
From 2 to 2 to 4, maybe we've had
2 to
5.
4. Yeah, we've had 5 sometimes. Yeah. But for the most part, it's like it's either it's me, Danny. We've got this killer guitarist named Kevin, and sometimes it's just me and Kevin. Sometimes it's just me and Danny, and then sometimes we have a drummer, Grant Green, and then sometimes we'll have just random people sit in with us, like bass players or sax players.
Yeah.
You always invite me to your shows the day before your shows.
Sorry.
And I'm like, damn it, I've got something going on. This has been like the last 5 shows, because you guys play in pretty intimate settings. You play at like coffee shops and stuff like that. And I'm always like, dang it, why did she just invite me? I've already got something going on tomorrow. And I've been trying to make it out and take photos of you guys, just because it's good for my portfolio as a studio to make sure that I get around for the local musicians. I'm kind of saturated in like the metal scene and the the rock scene, the punk scene, just because those are the people who come through and record here. My tenant, he is also a music producer, and so I'm kind of stuck in that area, which is why I invited you guys out.
Right.
I know, and thank you for that.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for coming in and hanging out with me. This is a treat.
I remember in high school, you made this documentary about this kid who was I remember this kid from school. I don't think I had any classes with him, but he was kind of like this loner kid.
Yeah.
And I think everyone in the school watched this documentary. It was about how he's like obsessed with Elvis, and he would like dress up like Elvis. And I just thought that was so neat that like you made that connection with this person who, like, I don't think most people would have ever given him a second thought, but you kind of, I don't know, you make connections with people. I think that's really amazing.
Thank you.
And that I will always remember that film because I thought it was really cool.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's Justin, and he is currently writing his second album, surprisingly. So he picked up a guitar. I still stay in contact with him all the time. And we won Video of the Year for the Oscar night for like the high school film festival, which was really cool. I wasn't going for that. He is a great friend, a good person. He deserved every minute that I put on film. And if I could, I'd do it all over again. That guy is awesome. So thank you. I appreciate that. We definitely had a good time.
And I never would have known that anything about that guy.
Did he wear Elvis clothes to school?
Yes, it was amazing, and I never would have known that.
Would he talk like Elvis? Would he go, "Thank you very much"?
He would.
He would.
Yeah, thank you very much. And like you'd get, because he worked in the in the what's a cafeteria, so he'd serve fries, and every time you'd be like, "Thank you," you'd be like, "Oh, thank you very much."
Did he at the school dance like Elvis?
I don't know. I don't remember. Probably.
All right.
The guy was hardcore, though. As far as Elvis goes, he was really into Elvis.
Well, Elvis is amazing.
Yeah.
He is. I just watched this documentary on, I think it was Amazon. They have this document, like Amazon Prime Video, and they have this documentary. It's called, it's when people go into the morgue and they have their autopsy done. I think it's just called Autopsy. And it had to do with like Elvis, all the drugs he was taking, like his whole life. And it's everybody. There's like 5 seasons of it. But the one about Elvis was this dude was like impacted with like 20 pounds of just poo, dude. like all of his
just from like being backed up from all the probably opiates he was
all
taking
the
or
opiates,
something.
so many drugs. This guy was just pilled out, and so that was a really interesting documentary. So if you guys want to watch an interesting documentary, it has to do with everybody. I mean, you got Brittany Murphy and Heath Ledger and Amy Winehouse, Michael Jackson.
You know, Danny went to high school with Michael Jackson.
What?
I went to school with Michael Jackson.
No way.
Not only did I go to school with Michael Jackson, but this is terrible. When he died, I had a yearbook.
Did he sign your yearbook?
He didn't sign it, but it didn't matter. I got $1,000 for the yearbook.
No.
I put it up on like one of those sites, maybe Craigslist, maybe eBay, something, and nobody responded. And then this auction house called me from like New York, and they said, we're gonna have Michael Jackson auction. We got people coming in from Saudi Arabia, from Japan, you know. I go, what are the big items you got? He goes, well, our big items, a glove, you know, we got one of these.
Got a glove.
You know, I go, okay.
Underwear from one of the kids.
So I go, oh God, that's terrible. So I said, you know, they take a 20% commission. So I said, okay, I'll send you my yearbook. So I sent it. And then I get an email, and they go, one of our guys saw your yearbook. He'd like to buy it before auction. We won't take a commission. Would you sell it? You know, and if so, how much? And I go, I know if I got $1,000, I'd be fine. And they sent me a check for $1,000.
And they probably made 10.
No, they did. It turned out to not. No, I've been watching. They're not worth $1,000.
Oh, it's
maybe
not. But
$700.
you got on it before anyone else did.
Yeah, that's the thing. They were really. It was a real auction house. They were like, I go, what's it worth? They go, you know, we don't know. We can tell you what an Elvis yearbook is worth. We can tell you what a Marilyn Monroe yearbook is worth. Well, that's the thing, though, is that like if you have some kind of collectible and it's the only one on the market, then it's worth more. So if I was going to list something on eBay that I see another listing for it, like I couldn't get the same out of mine that another listing sold for it. Once there's more than one of them out there, it's like it's not worth as much. But they didn't know. They had no idea what it would fetch, you know.
Yeah.
Because they just didn't know. We knew it was a very small school, and I bet you they didn't make more than 150 of these. Yeah. You know. And they were before the Jacksons went to the school, and like in the back there was an ad for Motown. You know how they sell ad space, and there was an ad. Motown bought a page. You know, they were famous then. It was like 73. You know, so I still have one yearbook though that I kept for myself just for posterity.
That's wild.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, that is wild.
I'll tell you something even wilder about me. If you're into heavy metal, are you familiar with Ozzy Osbourne?
Of course.
His Ozzy Osbourne's guitar player's mom was my piano teacher.
Whoa!
And me and Dolores Rhodes and me and Randy Rhodes played like gigs before he was famous when we were like 14 and 15 because his mom had this little music school and she'd get these little gigs.
Yeah.
So
see, I didn't even know that about you.
Have you heard about? Do you know who Randy Rhodes is?
No,
you don't.
Really.
He wrote Crazy Train. He wrote a bunch of, you know,
of the Ozzy songs.
Ozzy songs, and then he died in the plane.
Okay.
All right. The plane that hit the bus.
Yep. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Is that crazy?
That is crazy.
See, I'm glad I didn't still hang out with him because I might have been on that plane.
Might have been on a plane. I wouldn't even be podcasting right now. Right. Thank you.
Oh. Yeah.
No, that's
isn't
insane.
That odd? That's
that
really weird.
Odd.
Well, I grew up in LA, and so like things like that, you know.
They just happen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Surprisingly, we've actually gone to school with some cool people. Not Michael Jackson famous.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, but we've gone to school with some fun people. I think Capitol's had like some producers, Curtis Stigers.
Mm-hmm. I just a couple weeks ago saw Emily Braden perform. She was like a big jazz singer in New York.
No way.
Yeah.
She went to Capitol?
She went to school with my sister. Familiar. So my sister was 5 years older than me. So I think Emily was a year younger than her. But yeah, that's someone that's really inspirational.
That's cool.
As a vocalist, she's I'll never be anywhere close to her. She has this like natural talent that just like she just oozes it. It's like she walks it, you know?
Totally. Yeah. Well, some people got to own it. You got to own it if you're going to like make money off it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you guys meet? How did this whole thing start?
So my dad was a professional musician. He was a jazz musician, but he played just whatever. When you do it in Boise, you don't really get to pick what you want to do. You just pick what you can get paid for.
Yeah.
So my dad had played some gigs with Danny, and I was in junior high, and I was looking for a new piano teacher. And my dad paired me with Danny because I kind of wanted to learn more like improvisational stuff. And I didn't end up taking lessons from you for like I think it was just like maybe a year that I took lessons from you. And then I mean like kids get interested in other stuff and got busy. But then my dad passed away 3 years ago, and I kind of reconnected with Danny at my dad's funeral. It was like this huge event. Like there was like a church service, and it was like completely packed. There was a graveside service, and then like some of my dad's friends booked the Sapphire Room, and like everyone just put together this big concert, and that's where I ran into Danny again. I don't think he remembered me, but his wife did. Sheila.
Well, you looked a lot different. You had a different color hair.
So Danny used to have this really amazing mustache, and
man.
He used to look like Yanni, right?
He did. Oh my God, he did. So I reconnected with him there, and then about a year later, I kind of started singing out, like playing gigs and stuff. And that's kind of an interesting story too. I never thought I would be doing that, but I started doing it. And I was looking for someone to play music with, and I called Danny up one day, and he was like, "Sure." And we just started playing together, and it was like anything I asked of Danny, like he gave back to me tenfold. Like I've just become such a stronger musician because of him. And also we have this connection. I don't know. It's like he's like family.
Yeah.
And like now we play together at church even, and we like our families hang out together. Danny came and played at my grandma's funeral the other day. Came all the way to Shoshone, and his wife and his cousin came too, just to support us.
Yeah. That's cool. That's way cool.
Yeah.
So then you guys, when was the last show that you played?
Well, we played church this morning.
Well, yeah, that's true.
When was the last show that we played? Oh, I think we did that thing out at Highway 16.
Yeah, the winery at 16. That's
the Flats.
The Flats. Yeah.
We do these little. It's kind of hard. The kind of music that we do, it's hard to get the right venue for it. Like we don't play at like, the Knitting Factory or places like that. But we'll play. It's like people want to. It's more of like a middle-aged people want to sit and listen to our music and have a glass of wine or whatever. So we'll play like wine bars and things like that. Yeah.
Which is cool.
That the Sapphire, that whole hotel gives us some nice.
The Riverside Hotel gives us a lot of work, and we do these. Yeah, they have a lot more jazz music than most places around town.
You're gonna want to see us when we play out. Aren't we gonna play out by the outside at the Sandbar?
Okay, so our next show together is June 24th. That's a Monday.
Okay.
From 6 to 9 p.m. at the Sandbar. Now that's at the Riverside Hotel. It's right on the Greenbelt.
Have you ever been?
I have been.
A full bar, food. It's just it's really great. So that's you can put that on your calendar.
It's another intimate setting.
It is.
Yeah, I dig it.
See, that's what I love about that hotel too, is that it's not just like a place that you can go hear live music. It's like a place where musicians can feel comfortable. Like that they go to great lengths to make sure that the sound is perfect, that there's everything that we need up on stage, and that we're all taken care of.
That's cool.
They're really supportive of They have a lot of live music that they're supporting in this valley.
That's good.
Yeah.
Most of the places I go to, they don't treat musicians very well.
Most of the places we play at aren't as great as that either.
Yeah. Well, that place, I mean, we've showed up at like 9 a.m. For like a Saturday gig or something. For
like brunch gigs.
Brunch.
Yeah.
And there's another person playing like in the
lobby.
And then at 11 there's another act going on at the Sandbar, so like at noon on a Saturday, when there's no music work, these people are having 3 venues that they're paying for. That's great.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, the owner is a musician herself, so she's a big music fan, Linda Johnson.
She kind of pushes it. And this is the Riverside?
Yes.
But in the Sandbar.
Yeah.
So everybody, June 24th?
Yes.
Make sure you make it to Sandbar.
All right.
That's cool. So you guys play jazz music? We play everything.
We do a little bit of everything, but like I grew up living with a jazz musician, so I was always interested in like Great American Songbook kind of stuff. So, so I love jazz. I love folk music. I also sometimes I'll pull some like indie rock songs that I like. Like there's a Silver Jews song that I do that I really love, or like we'll do like Steely Dan kind of stuff too. Nice. So
yeah, just whatever you want.
And then we have some originals too.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you write all the originals? Who writes all the originals?
The ones that we do, I've written.
Yeah. We're going to be playing. Aren't we playing a songwriting?
We're okay. So we have another date, and I think it's July 31st.
Could be.
Or the 30th. I'll have to check.
Yeah.
That's at the. It's
that
that Friday.
Too.
It's that Friday, either the 30th or the 31st at the Sandbar, and it's for the Idaho Songwriters Association.
Yeah.
So we'll be there doing originals.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do they do? Well, I guess they do like. I don't even think they do like Battle of the Bands kind of stuff anymore. Do they even do anything like that where you can get together with other musicians, not necessarily compete, but like go and just kind of show off like your style and?
Oh yeah, there's like jams around
open
town.
There are.
Mm-hmm.
They call them open mics.
They call them
Yeah,
open
I
mics.
guess open
There's
mics,
one at
yeah.
Pangilly's Monday nights, but I'm usually at yoga.
It's the difference I think between an open mic and a jam is an open mic is kind of you come and you're responsible.
Yeah.
But there's I've noticed that like. There's one also by my house. There's a place called the East Side Tavern.
Yeah. That's
and they do it Wednesday
jam.
nights. And it's both. It's an open mic and a jam. So they have these kind of house musicians that work at the bar. Mm-hmm. And they're always there and they always have stuff set up. So you can like jam with them or you can play your own stuff too.
That's nice.
Which is way dope.
Yeah.
I wish I played an instrument better than I do. I mean, I like we were saying earlier on the piano, I just don't know it well enough. I need to sit down just 30 minutes a day. Just need to sit down, learn it to the extent where I can just sit down and just play whatever I want to play. And
that takes a really long. That's like a
lifetime. I think for me,
Yeah.
I always thought that like I always wanted to be a musician, like my dad. But I always thought like my dad went through school. Like he went to one of the best, the best jazz music program in the country, North Texas. And I just thought like, oh, I can't do it until I'm there. I have to be at that level. But that's not exactly true. Like I kind of just started like after my dad passed away, I just started like playing music on my own, just teaching myself how to play an instrument and singing. And then it got to the point where someone heard me and they were like, hey, let's try her down at, Chandler's and see how she does. And
yeah.
And then that's kind of what happened is like, you kind of have to just fake your way through it. And then like at some point, like you don't get better unless you actually do it. And like, and
do you not consider
by it, I mean like performing on stage, like you can practice at home as much as you want for as many hours as you want, but you won't be a performer unless you get up there and just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And you learn how to like play to a crowd and how to read people.
And there's that interaction of the crowd and the feeding off it. Do you think when you say play an instrument, you consider your voice an instrument, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because that's.
And it's the best instrument because I carry it with me wherever I go.
It's very personal too. It's with me, it's like it's a piano. I mean, I love my piano. But like the voice is so personal.
Yeah.
And it's really people who sing. they feel like they really are laying it on the line more than me. I'm operating machine. I mean, not really. I really like connecting with my piano, but it's still different. It's still separate from my body.
I love like instrumental music, and I play the ukulele too, so that for me is very personal. But with voice, it's like you are not just playing your instrument, you are telling a story. Like you're using actual words. And so it's not just like singing them in tune. It's like, how are you going to tell this story? Like how are these words going to come out of your mouth? Because that's like the audience hears the music, but they are also hearing a story being told. Yeah. And the way you tell it is, it's up to you. And that's going to change the mood of everything.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
I'm going to transition this one. I didn't realize that I didn't fix that. But we're fixing it.
Your dad, I was just thinking of sax. That's personal because it's your breath. You know what I mean? It's still part of your body is part of the sound in a woodwind or a brass.
And I actually asked my dad one time why he chose saxophone as his instrument.
What do you say?
Cool.
He said because it's the closest sounding instrument to the human voice. And it does kind of sound like, it's like a wail. Like when you hear it, like sometimes you just like you hear like whatever the music is, it's like, oh, that sounds like somebody crying.
Or somebody talking. It really is.
It does. I played trumpet all through up until, sophomore year, I think I was in high school.
How'd you like it?
I liked it. I could still probably pick up a trumpet and play a couple tunes. Like, I still remember a little bit of it, but it's loud.
Well, all these different instruments have different, like they're in different ranges or whatever. Yeah. And the saxophone, I think, was created because there was like some kind of like range missing between the bassoon and the oboe or something, and so this guy invented the saxophone to fill in like for it's like it was like an orchestral thing, like he was like, well, there's this like whole like section missing. Yeah, there's a gap in the like in the music, and so he created this instrument to fill that gap. So
that's crazy. I didn't know that. I've always wanted to play the saxophone though. Like that was always like the soprano sax was always like the one that I was like, oh man.
I like the tenor.
The tenor sax.
I like the tenor.
I'm more partial to the tenor, but my dad played soprano, tenor, and alto, and he loved all of them. So
yeah,
but tenor is like the most sexy sounding, I think.
I tell you,
it's the Lisa Simpson sax.
I'm working with a clarinet player, in the Moody Jews, and I always thought the clarinet was like this cornball instrument, but I've gotten a real appreciation of the clarinet.
People who can play a clarinet, and if they play it well, they can
play
jam.
the others also.
They can jam.
But he can jam, and you can do all these weird bending things. He can do these wild things on the clarinet.
And is that because of the breath, like the amount of like?
I don't know.
That, I guess the pressure they put on the reed. I don't know how that works.
I wonder if it has also to do. I think they have holes.
Yeah, and then for the airflow.
And you can like a sax is just open and close, but I think they have finger holes, don't they, in a clarinet, where you can maybe bend a note or adjust it by
hand. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
crazy.
I think they do. I'm pretty sure they do.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. Something for Google. Yeah. Everybody who's listening to this, make sure you Google that.
Yeah.
And if we're wrong, send me a message. And I probably won't even listen or read it. Sorry. That's cool. So you guys have played a lot of local spots, and you have a show coming up. What else is going on? You guys are writing new music. What?
Well, I'm going back to school this fall. Starting over pretty much at 33. I'm starting over as a freshman. I thought I had all these like social science credits. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be at least like a sophomore. But I basically like the program at BSU for music ed is just so intensive. It's like you basically start out doing everything like music theory, ear training, piano, private lessons, like everything. So there's actually not a lot of like room in the schedule. So I have a lot of credits that don't really mean anything except to me personally. Like whatever I got out of those classes like makes me a more well-rounded person, I guess. But I always wanted to study music. I just never did it because I watched my dad struggle as a musician. And I was like, oh, well, I can always do music on the side. And my parents said, well, you can always do music on the side too and do something else. But if you want to pursue music, we'll support you 100%. But I decided that I would be smarter and do something that I would actually make money at. But now I'm like, I was like, I should have listened to my gut. And it was actually after losing my dad, I took a good long look at my life and decided I wasn't happy where I was. I was in a really bad place, and I just turned everything around. And not just for him, but for me too. Like I wanted to memorialize him in a way that did him justice and that was honorable. So I started working with the Idaho Jazz Society to create a scholarship for junior high and high school kids, and that's a music scholarship for private lessons. So we have about 3 scholarship recipients so far.
That's awesome.
And they also have a college scholarship program. They already had that in place. So hopefully, like, we've had this going on for a couple of years now, and hopefully our students that do get these junior high and high school scholarships that'll give them a better advantage when they're applying to college. So that was something we did in my dad's name. And that's also kind of what inspired me to go back to school to teach music. Just being more involved in the music education community has made me realize that it's something that I want to be involved with. It's a way that I can keep doing music in a way that I can kind of inspire others and show them that, I always thought it was something that was like so hard. I had to like be perfect at it until I could like be a master at it.
There's no
but
master.
But there's, it's way more accessible than people think. And there's a lot of really great programs too. There's these like Idaho Arts Charter School programs that, Camden Hughes and Dave Gluck are involved in, and we've had their groups play at some of our fundraisers. So there's a lot more going on locally that we didn't, when we were going to school, like these things weren't around, so we didn't have those opportunities.
We didn't, and it's kind of cool. Sorry, I'm like over here taking photos, but like it's not kind of cool. It's really cool, especially because lessons are expensive for kids. Like you're talking, especially for a parent who might have 2, 3, 4 kids to take care of. They might be a single parent. They're in public school. They're on probably, if not free lunches, they're on, like they're getting compensated a little bit for those lunches. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we were thinking that it was going to be a scholarship for families in need. And then we decided, like even if you're sending your kids to private school, like you're still struggling because there's a bigger disparity between the like upper class and the middle class now than there ever has been in our lifetime. So everyone's struggling. And if a kid shows like that they have this talent and that they have like the drive to pursue it, they deserve that, to have that extra help. And if their parents are just barely getting by, then like lessons, like you said, lessons are just like, it's like another expense. All these bills are adding up. I don't know how people do it.
That's another minimum. Let's say $10 a lesson. That's when you find a cheap lesson.
We actually we match them with an instructor, and we also try to keep in mind like where the student lives. If they're living in Nampa, for instance, we'll try to find an instructor that is nearby, or at least like we have an instructor that teaches at NNU, so he's out there a lot, and he's
with the extra time, just taking students. That's super cool. It's important. I think music is extremely important. The development of the right side of your brain, the creativity part of it, it's not only going to help you out, which is playing music, but it helps with all different types of things.
Emotional stuff.
Also, science and math.
I was just going to say science and math.
Reading a thing about that, that kids that do music.
It's all about problem solving because music forces you to think differently.
Technically, yes.
It does, yeah. And
but yet you're emoting. You're using technical to emote. You're not using technical to be technical. You're using technical to be emote.
But it does something in your brain. Yeah, I really believe that I do Sudoku for fun. I think that it helps wake my brain up.
Yeah. Well, music.
But it does something like you're not aware of it. But it's like my niece, for example, she's 2.5. She does these like little baby music classes. It's called Music Together, and she's been doing it since she was an infant. And she the other day was like clapping out some rhythm or something. And I don't think she realized what she was doing was in 6/8. And I noticed that's what she was doing, but she's 2.5. She doesn't know what it is, but she was able to recreate that, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I was going to say it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
It just because she's been doing it so pretty much her whole life, and she's used to it now that it's just ingrained in her.
The thing I like about music and teaching music, you've got these teenage kids. And they're all, emotional, but they always associate the emotions with negativity. Like, oh, you're too emotional. Calm down. You're too emotional.
Don't feel your feels.
But where they say, so emotion is got a negative connotation. Well, with music, we're made to emote, but to emote best, we're in control. The more technique you have, the better you can emote. So emotion isn't being out of control. It's just music shows it's just the opposite. You can emote better by being in control. And so you're learning this discipline that's saying, no, we want you to emote, but no, we don't want you to just go crazy. And so the association of emotion with control and discipline, saying no, discipline, makes you emote better and more.
That totally reminds me of. I'm going to talk about Star Trek again. I'm a big Star Trek fan.
You're talking to a super geek over
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. That just reminded me of the Vulcans, they do have feelings.
Right.
But they go through take all these discipline techniques to control their feelings.
Right.
But they still feel.
But you don't want to discount them. And with music, it's just the opposite. If you want people to feel something when you're playing. If people don't feel anything when you're playing, then you've failed. You haven't made music.
Or if you don't feel anything when you're playing, then they're not going to feel anything.
That's the beauty of music, is you can literally create anything, and it can you can translate that as a listener into so many different things. You could be angry at it. You can be happy with it. You can be sad about it. It influences, in my opinion, it influences the way that you can feel and the way that you're able to communicate those feelings. And as a musician, you have a platform to influence those who don't have a platform, and you're able to give them something that connects them to their emotions and allows them to kind of figure things out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, for me, I've always had trouble kind of expressing myself with, I guess because I've always been so emotional, and I have very strong feelings about what's going on in the world, but I also get really frustrated. It's I don't know how to express how I feel. And I think a lot of people in the world have this problem. It's we're trying to have these conversations about women's rights or Black Lives Matter or whatever. It's there's still racism in the world. There's still sexism in the world. Don't pretend it's it's all gone away because we have these civil laws that protect us. It still happens. De facto racism happens all the time.
Yeah.
But so we're trying to have these conversations about it, and we're all trying to say the same thing, but we're still fighting with each other. And it's it's so hard to express ourselves. But then we have these avenues like music and art. That's another way to express ourselves. And it's almost you can say something with a piece of music that can mean more than anything that you can say with words.
Yeah,
totally. And what's nice is music's left in up to interpretation.
Exactly.
And to an extent, I mean, if you're saying ho ho ho.
Yeah, but I have these feelings when I hear a piece by Debussy, I have this feeling that I don't even think there are words for, and that's why there's music. There's music.
Well, Clair de Lune. It's one of my favorite songs I've ever
played.
It's one of the greatest.
It was the last song I actually ever played.
It's the greatest song. One of the greatest pieces of piano music,
of all time.
Yeah,
I've
it's
learned
perfect.
That song. Oh, it's amazing.
It's perfect.
It is.
Any note that you add or take away is going to make it worse.
Yeah,
you can't.
And he's a romance classical writer.
Modernist.
Is that what it is? Modern.
I guess because he
romance?
was in the 1900s.
He was 1900s.
Influenced by the Romantic period.
Yeah,
I'm sure, but I think he and Satie were they modernists or?
I don't know.
Yeah. I think they were.
I think of them
romantic.
as impressionists.
You can Google it.
They remind me of that art that came out around then from they just He's great.
Are you Googling it, Tim?
Mm-hmm. Is he romantic or classical?
I know, it's almost like I love the internet because like it's at our fingertips, and now like
see, look, they're putting them.
Find out whatever we need to know in an instant.
They've got him with a Van Gogh painting. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, look, impression. There, get it back. It said impression.
Yeah, let's do that.
Look at those. Let's see those images again. You see impressionism. There we go.
Yeah, impressionism, Ravel, and Debussy. Ravel. 20 most romantic piano pieces. I guess maybe it's a romantic piece that's within that that era, because you can be you're writing jazz music, and jazz was created in like forever ago.
I don't write jazz music.
Oh, you don't?
No,
okay.
I can perform jazz music, but writing it is.
But technically, anybody could write jazz music today.
Yeah.
No.
Although jazz, maybe not anybody.
No,
but there are people who could write some jazz. Yeah. I don't know. Curtis Stigers writes some pretty good jazz music. He's modern. He's been around, I guess, like 20 years. But like, what I'm saying is like, jazz has been around a lot longer than that. So you do have people who can put their own flair or change it up or even keep it as like standard as possible. But I would probably throw him in the romance classical style, but I really don't know too much about it, like as far as music history. I just know that I played that. I played his Reindeer Games? What was it called? Reindeer something?
I don't know that.
Tons of his... I have a book. I've got books for like my top 3 people that I used to play, because I played pretty seriously all through high school, all classical, but it was like Beethoven, Mozart. You said Chopin. I played a lot of Chopin. I don't really like Chopin.
You don't like Chopin?
I don't like playing Chopin. I like listening to Chopin.
Chopin is like
he's a little
piano.
too choppy.
He's a little
too basky for it. A little too intense.
Now Beethoven's sonatas, he reminds me like you talk about heavy metal. If that guy was living today, he'd be like
that's
in a heavy metal. He'd be in a heavy metal band. I mean, some of those sonatas. I mean, everybody likes. I guess he's written a few good symphonies, and everybody likes those. But his piano sonatas are just wild.
They're intense.
They're serious pieces. And
for a deaf dude.
Yeah, well, he probably got deaf by the way he was romping on it.
I don't think he was always deaf.
I don't think so either. But yeah,
I got a book of his sonatas, and I would just like to spend more time.
It's soothing. When I sit down and play, I'm just like, sonatas are a little intense.
Yeah.
But like classical music in general, if you're talking between like, I should say like less Baroque, because Baroque's intense. That's more Chopin.
Well, no, I think that's Bach and Mozart.
Romantic.
Oh, I'm thinking Bach. There we go.
Bach,
and Mozart. You know what were fun pieces to play, though? I played all of the Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Stars by Mozart back in the day.
Variations on a theme.
All the variations. Yes. Yeah. What was there, like 12 or 13 of those?
Oh, with Mozart, it was infinite. My dad always talked about Mozart. My dad was a jazz player, but he also could do classical. Mm-hmm. And I remember he and my sister used to play this Mozart flute concerto in, I think it was D major.
He's so intense.
She played piano and he played the flute, and he would just go on and on about how what a genius Mozart was.
He's
and
a
how
genius.
He could take a melody and just when you think that that it's like run its course, he just does something completely different with it and just stretches it out, and it just goes on and just gets more and more amazing.
Yeah.
And
Fantasy in D was another really cool song I played. That's a beautiful song.
That's really a cool song.
It literally, when I played that song, again, this is like 10, 15 years, I'm 33 now, so this is like 15 years ago, if not almost 20 years ago now. But like when I played that song, I remember it, every time I played it, I felt like I was playing a waterfall. Because of just the way, you flow. Yeah, exactly. You go from bottom to top, all the way back down.
I had a book of the Mozart fantasies. My sister and I would play them together. It's like with 4 hands.
Yeah.
Was that the one?
No,
that
it's not the one I had.
This one was.
I had like the Mozart classics.
Okay.
Yeah, that one is a famous. People
I've got them
learn
out
it.
there.
It's not that. I don't want to say it's not that technical, because it's technical, but it's not. It's doable.
It's doable.
Yeah.
And those are the songs I like, where it's like, all right,
and they lay
I know
under
the
your
chord
hands.
progression. Yeah, it just flows. Yeah, you don't have to think very hard as long as you figure out the flow and the key that you're in. it just kind of happens. Where like some of the songs that like that I've played, well, for the most part, if we're talking like Baroque period, it's a little more choppy. Like
you're like Bach is tough.
Like Bach's tough, man. And I've played a few Bach songs. I don't play Bach. I had to do it because they're like, hey, yeah, try this song. And
Bach has inventions though. He is like, it's like a weave that if you miss one note, the weave falls apart. It's like everything some kind of crochet.
I actually pulled out my old Bach book just because I'm like trying to kind of beef up my piano skills before I go back to school. So I've been working on the invention, and it makes me crazy. But at the same time, like when I get it, it's all about the fingerings with those songs. If you get the wrong fingering, like
you're screwed.
Yeah, like with other pieces, I can play.
No more fingers left.
You can get away with it with some other songs, but like with Bach, like you run out of fingers and like you have nowhere to go.
And his music is all like it's not chordal; it's all going sideways, and these two melodies are going at the same time. If they dug Bach up and analyzed his DNA and found out he was from like another planet, it would not surprise me. I swear to God.
Along with your theory.
It does.
I mean, I don't think that about Mozart or anybody else. They seem human, but Bach stuff just seems like
it's a little out of place.
It's like
intimidating.
And I heard he wrote so much music that if you just wrote down his music and you spent like an 8-hour day
copying it.
Yeah, just copied his music, it would take you 20 years to write all his music. That he just wrote. He has a body.
And he was probably writing it with the feather quill too.
Yeah, but he had all those kids. He probably had his kids help.
Yeah.
I don't know what, but I like piano music. Like for classical, I mean, it's like Mozart or like Beethoven has the symphonies that are so great. But I like the piano music. I like, and same thing with Mozart. He wrote, operas. But I like his piano
Me too.
pieces, and Chopin, I just know about his piano pieces, but I really like Chopin's, piano pieces. There's some, the piano, what a great instrument.
And before the piano, it was before the sharps. And
harpsichord.
It was the harpsichord.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or no, it was the pianoforte. And then
wasn't it?
Before that,
Well, the pianoforte is just what pianoforte means. Soft, loud, because they invented a piano.
Because harpsichord was only one.
Yeah, and they called it a pianoforte, and it just got shortened to piano. They really should, like the way I played, I romp on it. They should have called it a forte piano. Then everybody would have been calling a piano a forte.
Gotcha.
Right?
Well, so with
Danny is a loud player.
Play through. You want to play through. You don't want to play on top of the keys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like playing football, but you're taking a knee every time you get the ball. Don't take a knee, bro. Run that. We're taking a knee.
Before the harpsichord, here's what I imagine. I was talking about this at church, about these organ pieces in the 1200s.
Oh, wow.
Now think about this. These organs are these reeds, these giant reeds, and those low notes would be like a reed, like maybe a foot in diameter, like 60 feet tall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Giant.
Now, they didn't have electricity then.
So it was all airflow.
It was bellows. So I'm imagining, I don't know how they did this, but I'm imagining in the basement of those cathedrals, they just had a bunch of choir boys just pumping bellows. And a guy like cracking a whip, and if he hit a low note, it's like, holy cripes, you guys, he's hitting the low note, man.
I wonder how they did that. You literally just blew my mind because I never thought about that. Because
this is in the 1100s. I'm sure it looked like a Dr. Seuss kind of thing, down there.
Yeah, I wonder how they did do that. Because there's a lot. You have to push a lot
of air. If it's a 60-foot long pipe, in
a giant cathedral, like
Yeah, you're pushing some air, and this guy's just holding one note, and like he's causing a lot of stress for those guys in the basement.
I imagine it's probably something similar to like a bagpipe or an accordion. Like how the air is like it's stored somewhere, and when you press it, it pushes it, and then it fills itself back up somehow?
It fills it. I think they open it up.
It's a Google question.
Good question. That is a good question. Yeah, Google question.
How did they do that, man? Those poor choir boys. Like they hated that one piece because they had to. Yeah, they probably had a storage, but when it ran out, they probably, when that one guy was holding that chord in that low range register, can you just imagine how much air would get drained out of that? So
That's a lot. That's a huge pipe.
I've actually never thought about that before.
How did what is this called again? We're doing the organs.
Pipe organs.
How did all pipe organs get their air?
Yeah, it's already there. People are already like confused. How did these work?
Yeah, look at those pipes. What are they thinking?
We can watch a video real quick.
Oh,
Look at the size of that. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah. How did old pipe organs work? How my pipe organ work? Shoot, which one should we do? 100-year-old pipe organ restored in China. That's probably not what we want to do.
Not old, not nearly old enough.
It's got to be before electricity.
Yeah. How non-electric.
That would,
Original pipe organs.
Oh, yeah, original.
I just feel so sorry for those choir boys in the basement.
There's like physics of the pipe organ. This is probably going to give us a little more info. Let's find out. They sound so cool.
Yeah.
I can turn this
Can you
down.
display this for your watchers your listeners to see? I want people to see what we're seeing.
This is just virtual, though. I don't think it's a real...
It's taking you through the inner workings of the instrument.
Show us the bellows. The physics of the pipe organ. Okay.
Yeah, let's find out. Why is this not letting me select that?
Hello, I'm Tutti Granjou Shlamai Palsom the Fifth.
Whoa.
And this is the fundamentals of the king of instruments, or the pipe organ. The pipe organ behind me is a wind, a string, a percussion, and a reed instrument. It's a whole band in one giant mass of metal and wood. The sound of this behemoth is made by air going through each individual pipe. The air is produced by a huge fan called a blower, which is probably as big as I am.
That's not what we're
No.
Yeah.
I know I can do it with a motor.
Got like a 12-year-old. Know what it is. Yeah, let's talk about the 12-year-olds. Right. Blown air. That's not right.
No, but you can see,
To the size of the pipe. The top of the box
That's an intricate system,
is
though.
surrounded by expandable cloth that doesn't read very well, so that when the top is expanded to its maximum, that the pressure is low, and when it's not expanded at all, the pressure is very high. The air is then sent to what is called the wind chest, where the pipe is sitting. The air that is in the wind chest
We gotta find
what is
another
called
one.
the palate to open, so that the air can travel into the pipe and have it speak, like so.
Because we know how it works, but like, how did it work forever ago? How do old pipe organs work, like 1800s?
Go even before that.
Like 1500s?
Yeah.
What are those big fans they used to use for fires? Those
Bellows,
pump-
yeah.
The bellows,
I figured they had bellows.
So they had
But
kids jumping up on them.
Yeah,
and
these
going
kids
down.
were just, and they were these giant bellows. That's what I imagine, like a bellows like as big as a room or something, you know. And this guy, like, those Norwegian ships, those Viking ships where the guy, they were all rowing together.
Yeah, exactly.
Heave. Yes.
Box of whistles. Compressed air provided by a bellows or blower. You're right,
Bellows.
dude. Yeah, that's exactly right. So you've got like a bunch of kids down there probably just like blowing air up in there. And then it's possible that when they hit the button or whatever, it opens up. So it's probably pressurized. So they're just blowing a bunch of air in there real quick. And then when that button gets hit or that key is hit, it probably just opens that up and it's pressurized.
But I mean, you're playing a chord.
Yeah. And there's like 4 or 5
and big and these reeds are huge. It's not like a a saxophone where your pipe is like that.
Yeah,
it's like your pipe's like that.
Yeah.
So since you play the organ sometimes, that's the largest instrument. I mean,
I guess
is it safe to assume that that's the largest instrument in the world?
Especially
if
you count
the bellows. Does that make you feel like very powerful when you play an organ, like knowing that it's like bigger than your house that you live in?
I know, that's true. I have a problem with organs, though. I like the piano better.
My grandparents had an organ,
Was it a crappy one or was it a Hammond?
It was like, I think it was a Hammond. And it was like a home one from like the 70s.
Oh, my grandparents had one of those too.
Yeah, it had
my
like
grandpa
the 2 or 3
traded the
layers of
piano
keys.
one day. Like some traveling salesman came by and he traded the piano for an organ, and everyone was pissed at him. But yeah, I always remember playing that at my grandparents' house. It was like there was like a lace tablecloth covering it, and we'd always like the kids would always come and like pull it off and we'd play it. It was like so awful sounding.
It's so weird. It's so weird. I don't know. The organ's weird because you have like the top keys and the bottom keys. At
And
least
your
the ones
foot.
that I played, and your foot, and
Yeah,
multiple
the foot
feet.
pedals,
There's
yeah.
so many pedals down there. There's what, 3, I think.
Well, there's octaves. It's a
Yeah.
keyboard.
Yeah, and multiple keyboards. It's like multiple keyboards, and then you can drop octaves within that, right?
Man, and then they have, and then you pull all the stops out, and so the stops probably open up. So now when you're playing one note, you're not just playing one pipe.
Poor choir boys.
Yeah, I know.
It
must have been
what about
like
the
a-
girls? I'm sure they had some girls down there too.
I don't think they
I don't
did.
think Catholic people like girls. They like boys. Yeah, let's be real. They might add girls, but
I don't know. I just know that's got to be a tough job,
Yeah.
And some of those pieces had to be really hard,
Yeah.
God bless technology.
Man, yeah, all those
Right.
choir boys were like, oh, thank goodness they invented motors.
Not to bring up religion, but the LDS Church in their new conference center, I think it's the second largest pipe organ, or that's like
In the world,
active.
or-
Yeah,
yeah.
it's huge. It's gorgeous. It sounds amazing. Obviously, when you're spending that much money on an instrument, it should sound good. And if
Yeah.
it doesn't, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, pipe organs, or organs in general, it's a dying breed, right?
Well, you
No,
use
there's a resurgence right now of like a jazz organ.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's like a new resurgence
like the
movement
Hammond
of it,
sound, yeah.
and I think mostly East Coast right now.
But the Hammond is the Hammond B3 is really in a lot of music, a lot of modern music.
I didn't know that.
Your expression though is with your pedal.
Yeah.
That's how you do your
Yeah.
volume. And you can do stuff where you can pull back. You can like hit a note, pull back on. There's.
Oh yeah.
You can do.
I didn't even think about that.
And a good organ player, he's like he might be doing something with one hand, but he's playing the drawbars like on the Hammond with his other hand. He's just-
Right.
I've seen guys and they just do things like that, and they're just like.
And my grandparents had an organ that had a lot of flaps on the front of it, where I could change the sound
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
It was like red and black flaps, or maybe red and blue.
That's
or
what they
something.
got at the church.
It's like,
yeah.
and I could be like, all right, I want it to sound like, I want it to sound like I don't know, a violin right now. All right, hit violin, music, boom. I got a violin in my right hand and I got a piano in my left hand, and I can play both of them, and then the foot pedal stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what my parents or my grandparents' organ was. I haven't played that in like 20 years, but yeah, that's crazy. Now that you mention it, you've got a lot of versatility, a lot of independence when it comes to...
It's just a whole different way to play, and there's no sustain pedal.
Yeah.
So when you hold notes, you've got to really watch your fingering if you want to hold a note. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it just stays.
Yeah.
You're just playing the whole time.
Yeah,
It
and
doesn't just die off.
Yeah, and yeah. So
I didn't even think about that.
I know they want me to play at the church when I play it, and I do it because they like it, but it's like I have to. The way I practice it on an organ piece on the piano is without a pedal, without any sustain, because you just naturally use sustain when you're playing a song.
Yeah.
You could play without sustain. So when you go like dun dun dun, say you're going down maybe in sixth or something, you better have that fingered right so it doesn't sound like boop boop boop.
Yeah.
It's
a whole different ballgame.
yeah.
They used to always try to get me to play. My mom and my grandma would be like, "Oh, go play some of some Mozart, or go play Beethoven." The stuff that I was playing at the time, and I'd be like, "But it's an organ, and it kind of sounds weird, and I don't know how to play an organ. I'm like 13, so I'll go play, but it's not gonna sound right." It sounded fine, but like at that age, you really don't know the complexities of an organ. I didn't even know it until just now. I didn't really understand how much was actually going on until just now, and now that I actually think about it. Yeah, that's crazy. But you can translate like a pianist can translate loosely to an organ player because it's a similar keyboard.
The keyboard's the same, but it's a different way.
But everything else is it allows you a little more creativity, a little more control, I think.
So I like the piano better because within a piano you can I can be playing this hand getting louder, left hand getting louder. I can be playing it to make it sound like a bass. Do-do-do-do-do. The right hand, I can play the melody, make it legato. And then with my right hand, I can also do some stab chords and make them staccato. So I can be like going, da-ch-da-da-ch-da-da-ch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can do your phrasing on a piano totally different. You know what I mean? On an organ, you play two notes that are equally as loud.
They're equal as loud.
You can't, and when you're playing piano, you really want to bring out the melody, right?
Yeah.
If you're playing a chord on a piano, let's say you're playing a melody while you're playing three notes. Well, you want that high note to be louder.
Yeah.
And the high note, that's the downside of the piano, because if you're playing three notes on a piano, naturally the note with the longest string is going to be louder.
Yeah.
So you don't want those low notes to be louder. That's like on that famous
Moonlight Sonata.
Yeah. Everybody who doesn't know
those
how
are all
to play
piano. So the first three keys are going to be piano, and you got a forte on that that pinky key.
And everybody,
well,
everybody,
that song,
and everybody plays it like do 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 do. They just hear those.
But it's really
you want to bring out that. Yeah, that has to be underneath,
and it's louder. Yeah, it is. It's a forte on that pinky.
Yeah, and you're playing that. You're holding that pinky while you're doing that bottom thing. And if you don't, so you get to bring out one note louder.
Totally.
That you can't do on an organ.
See, that's exactly why I don't have a piano at my house, but I have this like little keyboard I was practicing on, and before my I had to play for the BSU music department so they could place me in a piano class. I went to the church one night and I practiced on a real piano for 3 hours, and I'm so glad I did that because it is different. All these instruments are different. It sustains differently and.
A real piano, and your overtones are different. Like a piano like this, if I hit the sustain, on a note,
it's electric, so
it's just going to ring out that one note. But on a piano, when you hit the sustain, you open up the harp, and all the overtones are ringing.
Yeah, it's a string. It's vibrating, and it's sending out. Yeah, so depending on how fast it's vibrating, it's sending out a higher or lower pitch.
Yeah.
Totally.
Your overtones are going to be a lot different.
That's why, with my uke, I'll tune it, but I'm not really that adamant about, I'm it doesn't have to be perfect because it's a stringed instrument. It's not going to be completely in tune, perfectly all the time.
Yeah.
Well, the best piano teachers, the best piano tuners, if you see a piano tuner that comes in, if I see a piano tuner that comes in with a machine, a little oscillator, that's not the piano tuner I want. I want the guy who's got the pitchfork, because, they're listening to it. And
you have to listen to, you don't, it's not the first sound that you hear. It's how it sustains, the sound sustains itself.
Yeah. You just don't want to dial in that pitch. It's not,
Totally. That's crazy. Katie, how many musical instruments do you play? You play the guitar. You play the uke.
I don't really play guitar. I kind of just mess around on it. I just bought a guitar actually, so that's my next project is guitar. I play uke, a little bit of piano, and then kind of when we're doing gigs, I'll do a little bit of just some percussion stuff on our Brazilian songs.
Yeah.
So egg shaker, which I know sounds silly, but actually it's a lot harder than it looks. And I had to practice in a mirror for a week before I could get that motion right. It's really hard.
Because it's not right on the thing. It's a little behind, isn't it?
There's a delay on it.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's it's you have to get it, you have to hold it a certain way so that it makes that chick, chick. Otherwise it's just going to be kind of like a shh sound.
Oh, okay.
There's people gift me instruments all the time, and I'm I might not ever pick this up, but sometimes I do. I have this. Someone gave me it's a Brazilian type of tambourine called a pandeiro, and you can play it like a tambourine, you hit it or whatever, and you shake it. But you also there's a way that you can skim your thumb on the skin of it, and it makes this kind of like this. I can't make that sound with my lips, like this kind of sound. When you skim it around the edge. And it's like I'm like watching YouTube videos of people like experts playing this, and I'm like, oh my god,
like,
I'm
how
never
can I integrate this?
What are they doing? Yeah. So I can do it kind of slowly, but yeah, for me, mainly voice has been my main instrument. So
it's your main instrument. That's cool. I'm excited to hear you play ukulele. I've heard a lot of piano, so I mean, I'm still excited to hear you play piano.
Whatever.
But nobody's been in here with a ukulele before. I have people come in every day to play piano, so like all the time. Every musician that comes in here, they play piano, and I love it, and they're all original. But it's like I've heard nothing but piano and drums and guitar. And ukulele's kind of exciting.
Well, uke is really easy to learn. I taught myself, and then I took a few lessons just to kind of get rid of some bad habits that I was forming. And I would recommend that for any instrument. Like, there's a lot that you can teach yourself to start with, but like always talk to a professional and get some professional lessons, because there are things that like I was doing that I was like, oh, I'm not doing that the right way, or I'm like something about my fingerings that are like, oh, well, this is actually easier if you do it like this, and like it won't injure your hand over time. So
that's my problem with guitars and stuff like that. I bought a ukulele when I lived in Virginia, and because I was playing football, and a bunch of these Polynesian guys, they all played ukulele.
Aww.
All the Polys, and so I was like, hey man, can I get like a ukulele off you guys? So they sold me this super awesome ukulele. I never brought it home, but it was like a baby blue all wood ukulele, and it was a beautiful instrument. And I played for like a whole semester. I tried, and I learned like 3 or 4 songs. This is forever ago. It was like 2007. And I learned these songs, and I had a blast. And then I ended up moving out of the apartment, and I just left that ukulele there because I just had so much crap I couldn't take with me, because I was moving back here for the summer. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna leave it over there. Well, when I got back, the people who had owned the property, they'd cleaned out my apartment and sold everything.
Oh no.
Yeah, so unfortunately I didn't have that ukulele anymore. But my brother plays, and he plays pretty well. He's just like an average player, like I sit at home, like I'm just having a drink and whatnot, playing some ukulele kind of a guy. But
it's got a nice timbre, or a unique timbre. You know, it's true. You always hear guitar, but you don't hear. I mean, it's just a soprano guitar, isn't it?
It's very clean sounding.
It does have a slightly different timbre than guitar, and but that also doesn't lend itself well to like a lot of rock songs. So there's a lot of music that I like. I'll play for myself. Like if I go camping or something, like go up to my family's cabin, like I'll bring it and we'll play songs. Like I'll play songs for like my niece or whatever she wants. Usually Itsy Bitsy Spider or Old MacDonald.
Those are great songs.
Those are great songs.
They call them nursery rhymes.
But it also, I find that it also lends itself really well to a really old style of jazz that I like to do. So it sounds really well with that genre. There's a lot of songs I wish I could play on, but it doesn't sound right, so I don't.
Yeah.
Like how many times have we practiced together and I'm like, I'm not going to play. You guys play. Like it doesn't sound right.
Well, also, your voice is so good. And the other thing is with the ukulele or with any chord instrument, like if it's just me, I can try some crazy, I can do some stuff that maybe wouldn't work so good if you're just playing a straight triad. Do you know what I mean? When we work with Kevin, it doesn't matter because he's got such a good ear. He'll get out of the way. You know what I mean? He plays guitar.
Yeah, I don't know what is going through his head most of the time, but it's like he just is so tuned into whatever like the music is that we're that's going on around him.
Yeah, no, he's you don't have to. He just stays out of the way if he needs to, and so
That's what's up. Well, what we can do, we should probably. We've been going for an hour and 20 minutes.
Wow, that's
it's like a time lapse in here.
We can't broadcast.
I didn't even know we started. Did we start already?
Oh, we started already.
Because you kind of just came and sat down and while we were talking and just.
We totally started.
You'd be a really good doctor. Like you just like be like, did you give me the shot already? Like, you'd be a good like pediatrician. Like, oh, I already gave you the shot. Like you're all vaccinated. Like, and they wouldn't even know it.
I know. It was a ghost start. I just hit like start recording right before I introduced you guys.
So now you'll like You'll edit this out, right?
There's no edits.
No editing.
No edits. This is 100% raw.
Real life. Right
my guests, they're all about it. They know my shows. They know what to expect. Yeah, there's nothing on this show. This is like very light compared to what I did last night and the night before and the night before. So yeah, no, this was an awesome show. I really appreciate you guys coming on. Everybody who's listening, make sure you subscribe and give us 5 stars. Where can we find you guys at? Where can people find you? Like we've got Facebook, Instagram. Like how can people?
Yes, you can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/KDGmusic.
Cool. Awesome. Danny, do you have anything for music lessons? Like
no, I don't.
You can find Danny wherever I am. Like
That's
you can find Danny.
I'm around
town. Danny's not on the Facebook.
It's okay, Danny. Don't worry about it.
You think I should get on it?
No.
I don't know what happened. I've been bugging Danny for like a year and a half about I'm like, Danny, you gotta get like a calendar on your phone. He has this big wall calendar, and so like I'll go over to his house and I'll like take pictures of his wall calendar, and so like because like if I call him, he's like, well, I'm not at home, and I'm like, oh, well, I can check your calendar for you, you know. But now he actually finally got the Google Calendar.
They have an app. It's called Google Calendar.
That's what I use.
They've had that for a while.
It's amazing. You just write in your thing and there it is.
And it'll even buzz you and tell you that you got an appointment within 30 minutes.
I didn't know it.
If you wanted to.
If you wanted to.
I didn't know that.
I changed the colors on mine, so like my work is yellow, church is purple, all other events are blue unless there's something specific gigs are red, so those pop out.
I'm the same as you, and I have like it'll beep me multiple times, so I'll have my watch because I sync it to my watch, but I'll have my watch tell me 15 minutes beforehand, but my phone says 30 minutes beforehand, so I know automatically like oh crap, I'm 15 minutes in, all right, we gotta vacuum real quick. You know, make sure it smells fine in the studio, it doesn't smell like a bunch of weed. Hopefully it doesn't smell like it's hot box from the night before. So not me, it's the bands. So
it's a problem.
That's a problem. Not really. It's either that or I have beer on the floor. It's easier to spray out
there we go.
Stink than it is beer. So
I love the smell of beer.
I think beer smells good, just not beer that's been sitting in a carpet for 2 days. It kind of smells a little weird. But all right, well, everybody, we appreciate you listening in. Make sure that you follow KDG and the Half Max. We had a blast with Danny and Katie, and just want you to know that it's Sunday, and we wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.